The UEFA Champions League Round of 16 for the 2023-2024 season has arrived, and you have probably clicked on this video to get expert advice on which teams will advance. Well, today's your lucky day, because when it comes to predictions, I am almost as bad as the Disney Star Wars trilogy. I keep missing left and right for fun, like it's my go-to hobby, as if I'm completely trying to destroy and self-sabotage. I'm sorry. It's just that when I start talking about Star Wars, I can get very emotional. It's been like 4 or 5 years since The Rise of Skywalker, that monstrosity came out. And from time to time, it kind of still makes me puke, which is completely normal, totally normal. And understand that getting all my predictions wrong is equally as hard as getting all of them right. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to the Champions League Round of 16 predictions video, the most accurate one you will find on YouTube. And today we're going to be doing a full Champions League Round of 16 preview and prediction video going through all 8 matchups. And for each one of them, I will try to give you my reasoning to why I'm picking that specific club. Okay, and if you like these prediction videos, just hit the like button right now. It's a great way to tell us that you like it, and then we're probably going to do more videos like this in the future. And this video is brought to you by BetterHelp, but more on that later. Let's start the predictions. And the first matchup is Copenhagen versus Manchester City. David versus Goliath. Day versus night. And now I'm just being overly dramatic for no reason. Because I would normally say this is an easy matchup for Manchester City. And to be fair, I firmly believe the current champions will go through. But it will not be an easy matchup based on what I saw from Copenhagen in the group stage. No, seriously, this team is definitely no pushover. And their name is also the same as a chocolate brand. I just thought I should tell you that. Copenhagen was off to a slow start in the group stage, getting just 1 point in the first 3 matches. In the group that had Bayern Munich, Manchester United, and Galatasaray, all very tough opponents. But they managed to get 7 points out of their last 3 games with an incredible 0-0 draw with Bayern in Germany, where honestly they played very well. It wasn't really a lucky draw by any means. After that, they proceeded to get a historic 4-3 win over Manchester United. Obviously, Marcus Rashford getting a red card played a big role in that 4-3 win, but it doesn't matter. They still got the win. And they then closed the group stage with a 1-0 win against Galatasaray to advance to the round of 16. Now about Manchester City, you know the deal there. Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland are back. This team has mastered the Pep Guardiola system that has been adapted to provide more width over time and to be far more direct. They're among the favorites to win the Champions League once again, and most likely will win the English Premier League as well, unless Liverpool can stop them. Because we all know, if it's up to Arsenal to stop Manchester City in the Premier League, it ain't happening. And regardless of Copenhagen punching above their weight in the group stage, I just don't see it happening this round. They could maybe cause some trouble if they could take advantage of set pieces, but they really only scored in the group stage in open play. They had no goals on set pieces, which is something they could possibly take advantage of against Man City. And honestly, they won't get many chances in open play unless it's in transition. Man City will have most of the ball possession throughout both matches, and they should be able to control the game. Now understand that back in the 2022-2023 season, Copenhagen did face Man City in the group stage, and Man City was held to a 0-0 draw away while playing man down. But in England, Man City got a 5-0 win. I don't think Copenhagen has enough quality to punish Man City, so I just don't see it happening, man. I have Man City advancing, not with too much ease, but with some comfort. I have them winning both matches. I think Man City might get a tight win away, and then at home, probably a 2-3-0 win. I don't think it's going to be like last season where they completely ran over RB Leipzig in the second game of the round of 16. I believe it was something around 7-0, but they should go on aggregate with maybe a 3-4 goal differential. Man City advances. And the 4 or 5 fans that they have will celebrate. Matchup number 2 is RB Leipzig versus the kings of the Champions League, Real Madrid. Real Madrid is a team that no one should ever underestimate in the Champions League. I mean, they have 14 trophies, and the second team in that ranking is Milan with 7 Champions League trophies. Essentially what I'm saying is if you're watching this video right now, you might actually never see a club in your lifetime surpass Real Madrid when it comes to Champions League trophies. Just saying. And I know that may sound a bit crazy because you might still see, I don't know, 50, 60 editions of the Champions League. But think about what would need to happen for some team to surpass them. And forget Milan because they're not the same that they used to be, even though I'm getting completely off topic now. Let's go back to Leipzig versus Real Madrid. Now, Real Madrid obviously has a few issues at the time of this recording. They will be missing Courtois, Eder Militão, and Alaba, which obviously not having those players on defense won't help. But Real Madrid are still the clear favorites here. The last time someone had this level of favoritism, it was when Luke Skywalker had to face Darth Vader during the Empire Strikes Back. Luke never stood a chance. And we all knew that. I know that the Bundesliga is a transition league, a counter-attacking league, so maybe Leipzig will be a bit prepared for that specifically. Who knows? But we all know how deadly Real Madrid can be in transition under Carlo Ancelotti. And that is definitely something that Leipzig must be aware of. They need to make sure the spaces in behind are covered. So, you know, Vinicius, Rodrigo, all those players don't exploit it. Otherwise, Real Madrid will be a nightmare matchup for RB Leipzig, which I actually think they are. Vinicius did not play for Real Madrid against Atletico Madrid last weekend due to neck problems, but I don't think he'll be out for the Champions League match. I'm assuming he'll be alright and he will play. As for RB Leipzig, they are currently managed by Marco Rose, the former Borussia Dortmund manager. This team is good, and they finished in second place in their Champions League group stage just behind Manchester City. This team has shown that they cannot keep the same intensity for the full 90 minutes, and they have shown some signs of gassing out throughout a few matches at times. Two of their signings this season have actually been really good. Openda, their center forward, has scored 14 goals in the Bundesliga at the time of this recording, and Xavi Simons started off the season flaming hot. He has cooled down quite a bit, however, he is a game changer when in form, and Real Madrid most certainly should be careful when facing him. Dani Olmo, when he is fully fit, he is crucial, but he's been dealing with a lot of injuries here and there, so we're not sure on his status. He'll probably play, but we don't know what form or what Dani Olmo will get. The problem also with RB Leipzig when you compare to them last season is they lost a lot of key players. And sure, they made a few signings here and there that definitely helped, but look at the players that they lost. They lost Nkunku, Gvardiol, Timo Werner, Szoboszlai, which was when they faced Real Madrid in the group stage, and they actually defeated Real Madrid last season in the group stage when they played in Germany. Look, I actually think Real Madrid will win both legs here. I know you might be saying you're only picking the favorites to advance so far. Well, no shit. I have to pick who I think will advance. And if I think the favorites will advance, I'm going to pick them. I'm not going to pick an upset just for the sake of picking an upset. I have to truly believe that upset will happen. And so far, out of these two matchups, I think the favorites will advance. Also, keep in mind that RB Leipzig are in poor form in 2024. They've been terrible, and they're also leaking a lot of goals. They lost 5-2 to Stuttgart, 3-2 to Bayer Leverkusen, 1-0 to Eintracht Frankfurt, and they only defeated Union Berlin at the time of this recording in 2024, and Union Berlin has been terrible this season. I honestly don't think they'll cause trouble to Real Madrid, so I have Los Blancos advancing with ease. But don't worry, I don't expect Leipzig to get that 7-0 loss like they did to Man City last season in the round of 16, but they'll lose probably both matches against Real Madrid. Now, before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. And thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring the channel. Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a US men's national team fan struggling with the return of Greg Berhalter, no, in all seriousness, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. So for that reason, we are partnering up once again with BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be extremely hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. But when it's online, you can get a therapist from anywhere in the country, sometimes even anywhere in the world. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it is online. It's remote. And by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist as little as in a few days. And if the therapist that they match you with is not the right fit for you, they will replace him or her for another therapist with no additional cost. You may sign up and register now with the link that I placed on the description of this video, which is betterhelp.com/tacticalmanagertv. That is betterhelp.com/tacticalmanagertv. Yes, we used Tactical Manager TV. That link will also give you 10% off on your first month, and in the process, you'll be helping the channel avoid bankruptcy. So once again, thank you, BetterHelp. The next matchup that we want to talk about here at the channel is PSG versus Real Sociedad. And this is where the fun starts. This is actually an interesting matchup, mainly because PSG is definitely better on paper, but this is a very beatable PSG side. I mean, they were in the group of death, but they did get through in second place, with some help from the refs. Allegedly. I'm not trying to get a lawsuit here, so you gotta say allegedly. You can literally say or accuse anyone of anything, I think, and as long as you say allegedly, you're safe. I think. Maybe. I'm not a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, you can probably let me know if I'm right. Probably not right. And this Real Sociedad team, moving on from PSG and going to Real Sociedad, they have actually a very big issue. Some might say it's the biggest issue a soccer team can have. They can't score, which, if you ask me, it's pretty bad. That's a pretty important aspect of this game, scoring. They have by far the worst offense of the top 6 teams in La Liga, and they're underperforming their XG, which means the finishing part is a problem, but the main issue they have is they just don't create enough chances. Essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is they're not super clinical in front of the goal, and they don't create many chances, which is a disaster. It means you don't create a lot, and you can't finish, you don't score at all. Well, they score, you get the point, they just don't score much. Their lack of goals even led to them signing the forward Geraldo Becker from Union Berlin this January that is currently injured. But at the same time, this team also has some really good players. Kubo, the Japanese forward, is simply fantastic. Martin Zubimendi, the experienced player, is a very good player. Mikel Oyarzabal is their top goal scorer at the moment at the time of this recording this season. The team is good, tough as nails, and fights till the very end. Now understand that the same way they have a hard time scoring, teams also have a hard time scoring on Real Sociedad. They have a very good defense. And keep in mind that this Real Sociedad side did win their Champions League group by finishing ahead of Inter Milan, Benfica, and RB Salzburg. That is a tough group, and they finished first. They also only conceded 2 goals in the group stage, and they didn't lose a single match. I don't know, man. PSG are definitely better on paper. They also do have Kylian Mbappe, which might be the best player in the world, or at least top 3, along with a ton of superb players. And Luis Enrique has actually been very tactically flexible ever since he took over. But you know what? Despite Real Sociedad's struggles to score, I think this is probably the first upset, or maybe upset. I'm not sure if you consider this an upset. I have Real Sociedad advancing in this matchup, as long as the refs don't help PSG. In a normal matchup, I think Real Sociedad will knock out PSG. I think they'll be able to grind their way through here. Understand, I'm not picking this upset just for the sake of it. It's probably something around 50-50, to be honest, but I think Real Sociedad will make it scrappy enough that they will be able to advance against PSG. Because when push comes to shove, usually PSG is shoved in the Champions League. They're one of those teams that in the UEFA Champions League, when they bend, they end up breaking. Real Sociedad will probably go for the draw in France, which honestly I think they can get. Then they'll bring the game back to Spain and advance. So PSG will say bye-bye to the Champions League, and probably Mbappe will say bye-bye to PSG, as for what, the 10th season in a row, they're saying that he's going to go to Real Madrid. I'm seriously kind of tired of this Mbappe to Real Madrid transfer saga. I feel like it's been going on for way too long. And when he finally gets the move, no one's probably going to... Oh, people will care. There's Real Madrid fans and they're signing maybe the best player in the world. But I'm just tired of that transfer saga, man. I also hope I'm right on this one. I really hope PSG is knocked out. I just don't like them at all. The next matchup is Lazio versus Bayern Munich. And for this match, I actually had a very good joke, in my own humble opinion, but a joke that could maybe get me canceled, so I'm holding it to myself. I'm going to hold it in. I'm not going to spit it into the mic, unfortunately, because you would have loved it, depending on who you are. So anyhow, let's go to the prediction. This to me is actually a very one-sided matchup where Bayern are the clear favorites, and I expect them to go through. Lazio finished in second place in their Champions League group stage, only behind Atletico Madrid, and in the Serie A, they aren't doing well. They're currently sitting in 9th place after finishing in second last season. I mean, losing Savic to Saudi Arabia didn't help, but they have far more issues than that. The main problem this team has is creating good goal-scoring opportunities. They struggle quite a bit, and I would not be surprised if they went scoreless in both matches against Bayern, unless Bayern gives them a penalty kick, which lately it seems like Bayern has been enjoying giving their opponents penalty kicks in the Bundesliga. Lazio are averaging 1.1 goals per game this season, and their defense concedes roughly the same. Those stats of averaging like 1 goal per game and conceding 1 goal per game just screams to me soccer terrorism. But look, I mean, Lazio does have some players that I do rate. That doesn't mean they're, doing well this season, but I think Felipe Anderson, Immobile, Guendouzi, they're all good players. But then they have to go up against Bayern and their army of world-class players. And Bayern, at the time of this recording, also has an army of injured players, or players that are at least questionable to be fully fit for the round of 16. I'll name a few of them for you. Kimmich and Upamecano are currently questionable. Alphonso Davies, Serge Gnabry, and Coman are all out, confirmed. And there are also a few other names that I could mention here, but you get the point. They're missing a lot of key players. Regardless, Bayern Munich still has the likes of Harry Kane, Jamal Musiala, Sané, Thomas Müller, Neuer. They're the clear favorites here. And even though Thomas Tuchel has been getting a lot of hate and somewhat struggling with this Bayern side, probably not living to the potential of how well they should play, we have seen Tuchel be successful in the Champions League, working with a lot less. I have Bayern advancing here with some ease, and they're probably going to win both legs, or maybe they'll tie in Italy and then win in Germany, but I just don't see Bayern losing any of these matches. Eventually, they'll get knocked out of the Champions League because, Harry Kane's allergies to trophies will kick in, but it's not going to be in the round of 16. They'll advance to the quarterfinals, at least. Match number 5 is PSV versus Borussia Dortmund. And this is also a tricky one because Borussia Dortmund have been very meh this season in the Bundesliga under Terzic, a very mediocre coach, by the way, in my humble opinion. But they did manage to top the group of death, finishing ahead of PSG, Milan, and Newcastle. Then you have PSV, that have been dominant in the Eredivisie this season. At the time of this recording, they have 18 wins and 2 draws in their domestic league, with 63 goals scored in those 20 matches and only 9 conceded, which is an insane campaign. And look, I know that the Bundesliga is far more competitive than the Eredivisie, but regardless, that PSV campaign in the Eredivisie is quite remarkable. And then for the group stage, PSV finished in 2nd place in the Champions League, only behind Arsenal. And I actually think this matchup right here doesn't really have a favorite. Some people would say Borussia Dortmund, but I actually think it's 50-50. Dortmund has been performing on par with their expected goals, so it means they often finish their chances in an efficient manner. They also do concede a lot of goals scoring opportunities to their opponents. Essentially what I'm saying is they're fine on offense with Füllkrug, Malen, Brandt. They also recently brought back Jadon Sancho, but he is injured and probably out. And their defense ain't great. I don't really trust Schlotterbeck and Sully. Matt Hummels is an option, but he is far past his prime. The dude has the speed of a basset hound these days. He's like 200 years old. No disrespect to the German legend, just very old and very slow now. The way I see it is their defense ain't awful, but it can easily get exposed. But understand that PSV ain't perfect either. And we did see them get torched by Arsenal in the group stage when it mattered. They have players like Dest. He's a fullback that offers a lot going forward, but is a liability defending. Luc de Jong can score a lot of goals in the Eredivisie, but when he plays tougher opponents like Champions League, he might struggle a bit more. He has struggled in top 5 leagues, but we'll see how he does against Dortmund. Lozano, Malik Tillman, but probably their biggest threat in this match will be Bakayoko. I think Dortmund's defense will struggle to deal with him specifically, and I think this matchup will be very tight, but I have PSV knocking out Borussia Dortmund. I think the Dutch Giants, PSV Eindhoven, will advance to the quarterfinals. And obviously the fact that they have Dest, Malik Tillman, and Ricardo Pepi has me cheering for them, because I'm still a bit pissed off with Dortmund and how they treated Gio Reyna, that currently plays for Nottingham Forest. Oh, and if you made it this far in the video, please comment your predictions as well. Curse me out, love me, do whatever you want, and drop a like if you want us to do prediction videos for every single round of the Champions League, quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. The next matchup is Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid. Last year's finalist Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid, led by the second biggest soccer terrorist of all time, Diego Simeone, a brilliant coach that knows how to win, but again, you gotta call it as it is. He's world class, he's a legend, but he is a true soccer terrorist. He'll do whatever he needs to get that scrappy 1-0 win in advance. And again, I don't blame him, but let's just call it as it is. And you know what, man? This is a very tough matchup to predict. Probably the most balanced of all of them. Atletico Madrid are currently top 4 in La Liga, and they topped their Champions League group, which was not a very tough one, to be honest. They had to battle Lazio, Feyenoord, and Celtic to finish first. So as I said, not a super tough group for Champions League standards. But we know Diego Simeone teams can grind out results when needed. He has managed to win 2 Europa League trophies and make the Champions League final twice while in charge of Atletico Madrid. Never underestimate them. Plus, Griezmann continues to age like fine wine. This guy has been tremendous for them this season once again after an incredible World Cup with France back in 2022. He has 5 goals in the Champions League group stage, and at the time of this recording, he has 11 goals and 6 assists in La Liga. This team also has players like Morata, their top goal scorer this season. Memphis Depay can be a problem to deal with. DePaul can help you grind out a result. Obviously, this is a fantastic team and very well managed by Diego Simeone. And I'll add this, I still think despite all these brilliant players that they have, Diego Simeone is the big difference maker with this Atletico Madrid side, which is why they pay him so much money. As for Inter Milan, they made it to the Champions League final last season, but I actually think they have a better team this season, in my opinion. They did lose Onana and Lukaku, but at the same time, they made multiple good signings this season while keeping the core that made them successful last season. They signed Cuadrado, Sommer for the goalkeeper, Benjamin Pavard, Fratesi, and the most important one so far is probably Marcus Thuram. He currently has 8 goals and 10 assists in the Serie A this season. Did I also mention that they lead the Serie A and that they will likely win the Scudetto this season, which they didn't last year because Napoli won it. But of course, the best player for Inter Milan this season has to be Lautaro Martinez with 19 goals scored in the Italian First Division at the time of this recording. I'm also 99% positive that Inter Milan will go with their 3-5-2 formation that we're accustomed to, with Thuram and Lautaro up top, the wingbacks providing width, Barella and Mkhitaryan probably starting the press, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu as the playmaker or the deep line playmaker. And Turkish names can be tough to pronounce, so hopefully I got that right. So again, this is a very strong Inter Milan side, probably stronger than last season, and despite Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid playing the second leg at home, I have Inter Milan advancing. I don't think any of the matches will have a lot of goals. It'll probably be low goal scoring matches and they'll be tight. But as I said, I have Inter Milan eliminating Atletico Madrid. Last but not least, we have Napoli versus Barcelona. So this is the matchup between two teams that won their domestic league last season, but they have been pretty mediocre this season for their standards. I mean, Napoli had to change their manager and that hasn't gone well. They have been very inconsistent this season and has some off-the-field drama which involved one of their key players like Osimhen. A lot of stuff happened that I'm not going to dive into in this video. As for Barcelona, they have Xavi in charge, and he kind of sucks as a manager. Legendary player, but not a great manager. And lucky for them, he is leaving this summer. Now, Barcelona topped their group, finishing ahead of Porto, and Napoli qualified in second, finishing behind Real Madrid. And I don't know, man, this Barcelona team just seems dead at times. Lewandowski has not been great, neither has Rafinha. The defense has looked shambolic at times, and very often it feels like a 16-year-old Lamine Yamal might be their best player, or to the very least, among their best players. The thing with Barcelona is they have good players, but they just seem like a mess at the moment. They're too inconsistent. I mean, you would think a team with Lewandowski, Gundogan, Araujo, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Cancelo would be a bit more consistent and better, but they haven't been. It's tough to trust Barcelona this season under Xavi. On the other side, you have Napoli, which, just like Barcelona, they have been extremely inconsistent this season. I would even argue they have been more inconsistent than Barcelona. Then obviously they still have deadly forwards like Osimhen and Kvradona, even though Osimhen seems like he wants to leave this summer and Kvradona is still good, but he's not in the same form he was last season. The thing is, we're seeing Barcelona struggle against top teams that they face, such as Girona, Real Madrid this season, and then in Italy, we see Napoli struggle against Juventus, Inter Milan, and then somehow Napoli still managed to lose 4-0 to Frosinone and 3-0 to Torino, so you can't really trust this Napoli side. In terms of playing style and tactics, I would say there's no clear favorite. But since Barcelona is better on paper and they have been less inconsistent than Napoli this season, Along with the fact that they also played the second leg in Spain, I have Barcelona eliminating Napoli and advancing to the quarterfinals despite the terrible season they've been having. So just to recap, these are the 8 teams that I have advancing to the quarterfinals. And they are Manchester City, Real Madrid, Real Sociedad, Bayern Munich, PSV, Inter Milan, Arsenal, and Barcelona. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop down below your predictions and a like in this video. I want to thank you all very much for watching and have a great day.